BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Sutherland and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, keeping you up to speed with everything you need to know about our national game. It is Thursday, the 10th of October. Today, as the Premiership is paused, we're going to take a survey of some of the carnage out with the top flight. With the club on the brink of administration, we'll be asking, what next for Inverness Caley Thistle? And forget all the fancy international football. What games should we really be looking out for in a busy weekend of domestic football?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Here we are, becalmed between the stormy waters of top-flight action and European stuff and the uncharted territory of the international matches to come, but so much to talk through. Today we're joined by Craig Telfer, host of A View from the Terrace, and George Moodie from the Inverness Caley Thistle Supporters Trust. In terms of Inverness Caley Thistle and all things Caley Thistle right now. We'll get stuck into all of it, but how would you sum it up very briefly in one sentence?
Grim.
Just one word, in fact.
Just one word, yeah. We've been relegated to our lowest league position this century. Club is on the brink of administration and we cannot buy a win for anything just now. So, yeah, the mood of your average Caley Thistle fan just now is not great.
We'll get much more into that very soon. Let's have a quick clatter through the Scottish football headlines. Aberdeen striker Kevin Nisbet has been called up to Steve Clarke's Scotland squad for the upcoming Nations League fixtures against Croatia and Portugal. The 27-year-old has not played for his country since a sub-appearance in a 2-0 win over Georgia in June 2023. He replaces Lawrence Shankland in the squad after helping Aberdeen to 13 consecutive wins at the start of the season. Rangers Football Operations Director Craig Robertson could be set to depart the club before Christmas to pursue new opportunities, joining the list of high-profile Ibrox exits, according to newspaper reports. And Celtic women's head coach Elena Sadiku says she's proud but disappointed by her side's Champions League debut. Glasgow's side lost 2-0 in the group stage debut at home to 20 on Tuesday night. Well, let's start with the situation at Inverness Caley Thistle, with the board there having warned fans that they are likely to go into administration next week. It comes after the club lost £1.2 million last season when they were relegated from the Championship to League One. A similar loss is forecast for this year. Last week, a GoFundMe page was launched hoping to raise £200,000 in 14 days to avoid administration. Manager Duncan Ferguson revealed that he's currently working for free to help ease the club's financial pressures. George, you summed it up succinctly there at the top of the show. The mood amongst fans is clearly grim right now. Are you able to give us a quick summary of how you see the club got into this situation?
Yeah, the current situation has stemmed from the former CEO, who largely went unchecked in what he was getting the club involved in and what he was neglecting. And in that time, when money started to become tight, along with our former chairman and some of the former directors, they started to believe that they could make big money outside of football interests by creating a concert company that ultimately went bust and got us involved in a battery storage scheme that left the club effectively spending the income on that before it even obtained planning permission from the council, and which was eventually declined. Under the former CEO, we we seem to live and behave like a Premiership club, despite not generating Premiership club income. And whilst we were playing in the Championship, there didn't seem to be much control over the spending. And then when questions were asked, everything seemed to be a secret. So need-to-know basis, and unfortunately it meant fans were kept away from it, kept in the dark, and even some staff at the club didn't know what was going on. But these grand money-making schemes being the main focus, the day-to-day basics of running a football club was forgotten about, and things like match sponsors, man-of-the-match sponsors, player sponsorship, match day hospitality really happened, and when it did, it was priced high at the corporate prices. There seemed to be a jam tomorrow attitude because we had the big money coming in from the battery farm that eventually didn't materialise. So, and then each month, as directors ploughed money in to pay wages, the directors added what would normally be donations to the club as directors' loans. So the balance sheet looks really bad because these loans are still outstanding to these former directors. And the last of these directors, former directors, sorry, only resigned last week and removed from Companies House without informing the rest of the board. So that's the type of stuff we've had to deal with.
Yeah, Scott Gardner, the former CEO, he's obviously getting a lot of the blame here from Inverness Caley Thistle fans. Obviously, he's not here to defend himself, but it would be fascinating to get his point of view on how he sees this situation. And maybe we'll get that at some point. But right now, George, there was this meeting between the board and supporters earlier this week. Charlie Christie, club legend now, I believe, interim chief executive, he was one of the speakers. What did you take away from that?
Unfortunately, I couldn't make the actual meeting, but I have viewed the recording of it and I have received feedback from many supporters who were actually there. Alan Savage, our former chairman and consultant to the club, put forward a very strong case for administration, saying that the club needs a reset and that administration can help that by dealing with the former directors' loans and the larger creditors and some of the contracts that the former CEO got us involved in that we simply can't afford. The running costs of the club remain high and higher than our income. You can always try and reduce costs, and that unfortunately means job losses. But you also need to drive up income. And however, the club's hands are tied here as the same former directors now also own the car parks and land around the stadium that should be used to generate much needed income. There are park and ride options. There is land near the port that could be useful to generate income. However, that involves dealing with those former directors. Some other takeaways from the meeting was the revelation that Scott Gardner entered the club into a new kit deal with Puma, that the club playing in League One with the finances the way they were just simply can't afford. The figures mentioned on the night were £125,000 a year for 4 years, when the club in reality only requires a kit of around about half that per season. So you start to wonder how that could happen without board approval and appropriate scrutiny. Supporters did get an apology from the remaining board members that they did not control the CEO effectively, but there was news that the club were in discussions with interested parties looking to invest in the club, but anyone seriously interested only have a few days to do it, so the clock is ticking.
In which case, how optimistic are you that the club can avoid administration and find a way out of this current crisis, George?
Not very optimistic as we speak, unless someone comes in at this very late stage with deep pockets. But as I've seen over the last 6 to 9 months in particular, nothing would surprise me with this football club just now. What's happened so far this year would make Welcome to Wrexham look like a kids' TV show. We perhaps should have had Netflix following us around. Perhaps that would have generated enough money to save the club.
Craig Telfer, what have you made of it? Lots going on, obviously. The directors taking some of the blame for not perhaps holding to account decisions that were being made at the club. And as George has outlined, so much has happened. Duncan Ferguson now working for free at the moment, struggling in League One. How would you sum it up?
Frightening. Absolutely frightening, because it just, as a football supporter, all you really want to do is go along on a Saturday afternoon, watch your team get 3 points, go to the pub afterwards, talk to your mates about it, have a complain about a bad decision, complain about the players and so on, and really just support the team. Stuff that George is talking about there about finances and kit deals, as supporters, this isn't things that we should really know about, because that's other people. You hand that over to experts. And the fact that Caley Thistle are in a situation where it just takes one bad decision followed by more bad decisions, which leads to more and more bad decisions, till we're in the situation that we're in just now, where the club could go into administration next week unless, I think there's about £125,000 of that gap in that fundraiser. It's really scary. And on top of that as well, we're interested to get George's thoughts. Like, on the park, I don't think they're a particularly good side either. I went up to watch the 0-0 draw with Stennismuir, and for Caley Thistle, for the advantage they've got about being like a full-time team, they're not really seeing any evidence of that on the pitch. I think they're quite an easy side to play against. They like to keep possession. They try to get the ball to Louis Longstaff and hope something can happen. And once you figure out what they're trying to do, they're quite easy to play against. And I think that even if I know it's easy to say that if the stuff in the background wasn't going on, I still think they'd perhaps be in the league position they're in, because I don't think they're particularly well coached. So my sympathies are with George for what's going on and off the pitch, and I really hope the club can get a resolution soon.
I just wanted to touch on the administration aspect of this, George, as well, because obviously Caley Thistle currently second bottom of League One, very much the real possibility of a second relegation in a row, especially if they do go into administration. They'd lose 15 points, so it would be on -6. Is that how you're looking at it? Is that how most Caley Thistle fans are looking at it? A League Two season next season?
Yeah, I think there's a real acceptance that we should be falling to administration, that it's likely we'll fall down another league. It would depend on what players we retain. League One is a tight one just now, and maybe another club starts to fall adrift at the bottom, and they could perhaps be caught if we got a run of wins going. But it would be tough, and to stay up after that level of points deduction would be a massive achievement, and almost feel like winning the league if we did stay up. In terms of consequences, we would have to go part-time as well. We would need to use more locally based Highland League players and our youth academy more than we have so next season. But the club have done it before, taking good players, local players, players from the Highland League, and giving them a shot at league football. But as Charlie Christie did say the other night, it is better to be in League Two than out of business altogether, and that's the unfortunate reality of where we currently are.
Scott Gardner obviously getting a lot of the blame here, but I mean, I suppose he could point to recent Caley Thistle success in terms of, it was only 16 months ago Caley Thistle were in a Scottish Cup final, and I know that's not even a crumb of comfort right now with what everything's going through, but it was something in terms of what they were obviously trying to build there. Billy Dodds obviously takes huge credit for his job there at that time. They won the Scottish Cup back in 2015, Caley Thistle. In the aftermath of all that, George, can you really believe where the club is right now? And is there any sliver of hope?
I would never have believed that 10 years ago we're winning the Scottish Cup, and as supporters you're always looking up, and having won the Cup and then played in Europe, you're always looking to build on success. But we did make some mistakes, some wrong choices. Then successful teams come in and take your better players away. That would have made a big difference. Really highlights for me the importance of staying in the top league as long as you can, because that's where the bigger money is. But if you said 10 years we'd be struggling to not only stay in League One but stay in business altogether, then I've said you were mad. But it's part and parcel of being a football supporter, and you have to take the downs as well as the ups. But okay, that day in 2015, that was such a great day, and one I'll never forget.
Okay, let's move on, because while the focus may be elsewhere at the moment, there is plenty of action taking place all across Scotland this weekend with the SPFL Trust Trophy 4th round and games in the Championship and League 2. George, it's not your top priority, obviously, I guess, but Inverness do take on Livingston away in the SPFL Trust Trophy, the Challenge Cup, as some people will still call it. In terms of the match away at Livingston, who are obviously in the Championship, how on earth are you feeling about that one?
It's a free hit. It's a chance to refresh the team, give some of the young lads a run out. Obviously, it's nice to progress in any cup competition, and the draw could have been a bit kinder to us. But nobody gave us much chance against Livingston 2 years ago when we beat them on our way to the Scottish Cup final. So anything's possible. We don't concede many goals, but we're not scoring any goals either. And 6 draws in 9 league games. I wouldn't bet against another low-scoring draw and perhaps penalties deciding the game.
Craig, in terms of the overall fixtures, what would you say are the 3 standout ones for yourself? And obviously your club, Stenhouse-Muir, they're having to delay proceedings a little bit because they're meant to be playing Rangers under-21s, but that's been postponed due to international call-ups for the Rangers under-21 players.
Yeah, to be honest, it's like I really like the Challenge Cup, and I think it's a great competition. I think it's a really good opportunity for the smaller clubs to reach a bit of glory. I really liked it when they brought in overseas teams. One of my favourite Stennismuir games of recent years, we played Waterford. It was a Friday night. It was broadcast on BBC Alba, and Mark McGuigan scored an injury time winner in a 3-2 game. That was great fun, bringing in the overseas teams. I'm not a fan of the involvement of the B teams at all. So when our fixture with the Rangers B team is played, I won't be going to that because I don't agree with their involvement. However,
you're boycotting it on Tuesday, the 22nd of October. It's at Forth Bank.
I'm just not interested in watching the B teams. I'm against B teams competing in the SPFL and the Lowland League and so on. But that's my problem. That's a discussion for another time. But there are a number of really interesting fixtures. I think perhaps the most interesting on Saturday, it's Dunfermline Athletic are taking on Kelty Hearts.
Yeah.
And this is basically a team who are towards the bottom end of the championship with the unlikely League One leaders at this stage. And I think that Dunfermline could be in for a bit of a game here. Kelty have scored 8 goals in their last 2 matches. They beat Annan 3-0 and then perhaps recorded the result of the weekend when they beat Queen of the South 5-1 at Palmerston. They're a really good team. Really good team. Player manager Michael Tidser is one of the best midfielders in League One. Just sits in the centre circle, dictates play, can slow it down, speed it up. Really, really good at recycling the ball, keep it moving. But perhaps their greatest asset, they've got 2 supremely energetic forwards, and Scott Williamson, who's on loan from Queen's Park, and Craig Johnson. They do not give you a minute's peace whatsoever. So enthusiastic, so good at pressing, so good at just niggling teams and forcing them into mistakes. And Williamson got 2 goals at the weekend. They're 2 really well taken goals, and I expect him to build on it. I think James McPake's team could be in for a wee bit of a fright here in this match. So that's my pick of the games that are taking place.
Interesting, yeah. I did have my eye on Dunfermline versus Kelty Hearts. As you say, that 5-1 victory against Queen of the South for Kelty Hearts. I suppose the only difficulty is Kelty are at Dunfermline, right enough. Ayr United versus Peterhead also catches my eye because Peterhead doing quite well in League 2, although they haven't won any of their last 3 matches, but they're still up there. And Ayr United obviously took that dunt, Craig, against Falkirk, which is probably, in terms of the ding-dong at the top of the championship for this season, I mean, it's early days, obviously, but Ayr United's duel with Falkirk, it looks like it could be a very interesting one. But Ayr United will be looking to bounce back. Obviously, they're at home against Peterhead, so you would probably back them.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. Peterhead were one of my picks to win. I've actually say one of my picks. I actually fancied Clyde to win League Two, so I got that one. I got that one wrong so far, given their start. But no, Peterhead are a very good side. I think they were perhaps unfortunate not to have at least got something from the game against Elgin City at the weekend. It missed a couple of good chances. Rory McAllister uncharacteristically off target there. But yeah, you would fancy Ayr United to win this. I've been impressed by what I've seen from Scott Brown. I saw them early on in the season in the League Cup group stages, and it's the first time I've ever seen inverted fullbacks in real life. You know, sometimes you see them on the television, Ange Postecoglou's Celtic, but
do they not happen in the lower leagues? No,
very rarely. That's the first time. It was like the way they were playing. The boy Frankie Musonda was playing at left back, but he was coming into midfield a lot of the time, and it looked as though they had 12 players on the pitch, just because of the they were able to get the extra body in there. So it's very interesting to see what Scott Brown's doing. I think it's a sort of high risk, high reward kind of play, and I think that when it looks good, it looks really good. But they were caught out a wee bit against Falkirk when they lost at the weekend there. But Scott Brown doing some very interesting things at Ayr United, and I think that Peterhead will give them a good game. But I do think this is a chance for Ayr United to kick on, and they'd probably be the favourites for the competition at the moment.
Some of the other matches, I'll just go through. Hamilton versus Morton, that's live on BBC Alba on Friday night. Alloa versus Arbroath, and Annan versus Queen's Park also on Friday night. I also just wanted to mention, which one was it? Yeah, Airdrieonians versus East Kilbride. Airdrie obviously struggling in the championship at the moment, and East Kilbride banging in the goals as usual. And obviously, 3 divisions or thereabouts, whatever it is. My maths is not good at this time of the day. Separate these sides. So is that something that interests you?
The Airdrie and East Kilbride met each other in the League Cup group stages, and Airdrie won 8-0. And
I forgot about that. Right,
it's when Celtic played Dortmund, and Brendan Rodgers afterwards saying he's very principled, he's not going to compromise, he's still going to want to build out the back. That's Mick Kennedy's approach. He doesn't compromise. Either these Kilbride managers doesn't compromise, and their attempts to try and build from the back, they were ruthlessly exposed in that match. So I don't think it'll be quite as grievous as 8-0, but you would fancy Airdrie to get the better of them once again here.
Very true. And we should also just mention there is one championship match on Saturday as well. Partick Thistle versus Falkirk. It looks like a juicy one as well, because Partick Thistle kind of mid-table, but obviously not far away from the top either. And Falkirk obviously going great guns in the championship. Craig, can you call that one?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for Falkirk to win this. Falkirk just excellent season so far. Excellent season. Just really impressed by them. The verve, the dynamism that this team are showing. They have hit the ground running since coming into the championship, and deserved league leaders. They're great to watch, and the fans are really having the time of their life at the moment. And that they're taking on a Partick Thistle side who, their season hasn't really got going. I would have fancied them to challenge for the title, but the fact they're 10 points off the top at this stage, I do think there might be some murmurings about the direction they're going in under Chris Doolan. I don't think they're creating chances a lot at the moment. Brian Graham's been outstanding for the past 2 seasons, but from what I've read, what I've seen, they're not necessarily creating enough chances for him, and he's looking off the boil a little bit there. So I would fancy Falkirk to get the 3 points here and extend their lead.
Just to wrap everything up, I'll mention the fact that there is an Edinburgh derby on Saturday in League 2 as Edinburgh City take on Spartans. But George, I just want to end with you. Are you able to enjoy football right now?
It would be nice to enjoy some of the football on the pitch, but as I say, that's not been great. And Craig really well summarised how it has been for us on the pitch as well. You're right. All football fans want to do is go to a game, have a pint, and talk about how the game's gone and what could have done different. But we're not even getting that bit on the pitch right either. So the style of football we're playing just now has meant we're really tight at the back. We lack something going forward. We're really slow and overly cautious, and it's not the style of play that Caley Thistle fans have been used to over the years either. So we've had some good halves of football, but apparently we were really good in the first half against Arbroath at the weekend, but we just can't seem to buy a goal just now and put teams to bed, and that's been highlighted with all the draws. But there is a massive distraction off the pitch just now, and but who knows? This weekend might even be Duncan Ferguson's last game in charge, because if the administrator does come in next week, they may decide that that's a cost they want to dispense with, but for me, it hasn't really worked out with him in charge, and maybe a change on the pitch might be as good as a change off it as well.
George, I sincerely hope that Inverness Caley Thistle can get to a place of safety off the field very soon, and thank you very much for joining us today. Craig Telfer, thank you very much as well. And you can see Craig on A View from the Terrace on BBC Scotland at 10:30 on Friday night, and on the iPlayer, repeated at 11:30 on BBC One Scotland. And remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds. Scottish Football, the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for listening.
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swabu, and I used to be a professional footballer, but then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me?
This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangers Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.